Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It is Wednesday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. The 30th of October. We're almost done the month. And I was having a discussion with a client, and we were talking about the pros and cons of insourcing versus outsourcing your transportation, okay? And so I kind of want to go over some of the things that you should consider when going through this exercise and the benefits of maybe doing it in-house or outsourcing it. So let's get into it, okay? So let's think about some of the things that you're going to have to take into consideration, you're going to need when you're managing your own transportation. So let's make two columns, all right? So let's just say own transportation, and then let's put outsource transportation, okay? Now, if you're going to be handling your own transportation, right, you're going to need some sort of a software to manage all this. So typically what we call that in the business is we call it TMS, Transportation Management System, okay? And within that TMS, there's going to be certain data it's going to house. But let's take it a step back and think about this, okay? So you want to have a TMS. That's a type of software. What do you think something like that might cost, right? So I can say in my career, I've seen costs anywhere from $100,000 and up, okay, for a sophisticated TMS. Now, within that TMS, okay, you're going to need to have all of your carrier information, okay? So let's mark that down. Carrier info. Now, what do I mean by carrier information, okay? You're going to need to have their rates, okay? You're going to need their contact information. And within that contact information, you're probably going to need an email address. And you'll need that email address because when you have shipments and you're tendering them to your carrier base, right, you're going to have a way to email them. So we have the rates, we have the contact information, okay? And then within that, we're going to have a route guide. So when you go through an RFP, right, your carriers are going to give you rates on lanes and you're going to rank them, okay, based on first, second, third. Typically how it works is it's based on price. So you're going to have your route guide of your carriers on all your lanes with their prices, okay? But let's take it one step back here. Before you even get to the route guide, all right, and in your TMS, how are you going to conduct an RFP? You know, I don't know, like some softwares have different bolt-ons or features, but how are you going to run an RFP? Are you just going to create a spreadsheet with all of your lanes and you're going to send it to the carrier and you're just going to do lookups and merge it that way? That's something else to consider. How much time is that going to take? Okay. So let's put in here, let's maybe just branch it out here, your RFP. How do you want to conduct that? Okay. So now you have your route guide, you have your its ability to tender the loads to the carriers. But then once it's tendered to the carriers, okay, here's the next question. How are you going to track those shipments? Okay. Are you going to have your carriers set up on EDI? Are you going to have your carriers use other types of software? I know there's mobile apps like MacroPoint, 4Kites that you can use. So how do you want to track those? All right. Then once the carrier delivers, okay, what sort of document services are you going to have to house the bills of lading? Because typically the way it works is when carriers deliver, they get paperwork, they get it signed, they submit it for payment. So where are those documents going to go? Now, a lot of TMs do have the ability, to store documents in there. But again, you have to have that system set up, okay? Then let's take it to the last step. And I might be missing some, but this is just a very general overview. How are you going to pay your carriers, okay, in terms of different options, whether it's ACH or however, a check. But then on top of that, freight payment, what sort of audit process are you going to have in place, right? Because you have your route guide, okay, and it gives you the rates on each lane, but in that route guide, that's just going to be the line haul cost. Every week, the Department of Energy comes out and updates what diesel fuel is. So in here you have your line haul plus your fuel. What kind of a fuel table are you going to use, right? And there's generic ones they have out there that you can implement and things like that. But these are just some of the things that you're going to need to consider if you're going to insource your own transportation, okay? And I can tell you that with TMSs, they're going to require updates, okay, every year, upgrades, software updates, whatever you want to call it, okay? Do you have a person in-house that's going to know how to do that? Are you going to have to outsource that? You know, if you're going to do your transportation in-house, do you have an individual that understands what sort of data you're going to want from that TM, okay? Because without the data, you're essentially flying blind. You're not going to be able to make sense of your freight spend and be able to make improvements, okay? So those are just some of the things that you want to take into consideration for own transport. Now let's think about outsourcing, okay? So everything I just mentioned over here, okay, let's say you use a 3PL or an asset carrier. Now, they will offer all of this, and they'll do all of this for you. And what I've seen in my career is they'll come in, they'll evaluate your supply chain, they'll conduct RFPs, they'll set up your TM, they'll work with the carriers. They will do all of this. And I've seen it where they'll say, hey, if you're willing to sign a contract with us for, let's just say 3 years, okay? They will implement the whole thing for free on the contingent that you sign a long-term contract with them. And the way they make money is it could be a couple ways, right? Maybe, let's just say your ERP is SAP, right? And every delivery you create, okay, let's just write delivery from SAP goes into the TM, okay? So maybe there's a $20 fee, a $15 fee for every order that goes in their TM. Maybe they make money that way, okay? Maybe the way they make money is they look at all your lanes and they say, okay, it costs X for this lane, it costs X for this lane. I think I can buy here, all right? I can charge them here, and that gap or that spread is how they're gonna make their money, okay? But again, they're handling all this. They are auditing the freight payments to make sure everything works. They are handling the documentations. They are expecting the carriers to update the tracking into the TM, okay? One of the things I forgot to talk about too is another function of transportation that doesn't get a lot of attention, but I've done in my career is claims management, okay? Okay, a lot of times you'll have freight, it's delivered, it arrives short, it arrives damaged. That can add up very quickly, okay? So you want to have a process in place of how you're going to file those claims, how you're going to work with the carriers, the insurance companies, give them the documentation you need so you can get recouped on those losses, all right? So again, when you look at the outsourced transportation, they also have SMEs, subject matter experts. And maybe your organization has someone who wears multiple hats. Maybe logistics isn't their primary function, but they still dabble in it day to day. So that's something else that you need to think about, okay? And we talked about the technology, the upgrades, all of that. They handle all of that, right? So their IT is managed in-house. They have software experts that can go in and make the upgrades. They also have the ability to customize, okay, these TMs for whatever data you want. So let's make the note of that. Let's talk about data customization. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you have something in your TM, you want to make an adjustment. Maybe you have to go back to the company and say, hey, I want to add this feature because I want to capture this data. Well, they're maybe going to charge you for that. Whereas if this, okay, you come back to a 3PL or an asset and they go back to their IT, odds are their other customers have probably asked for it. So it's real simple to turn on that switch and give you the same access to the data that you're asking for that other customers have. So again, a very brief overview of the pros and the cons. Again, I'm not saying what you should or should not do. I'm just saying some of the things you need to consider if you're going to do it versus having a 3PL or an asset base do it. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and have a great week, guys. Thanks.